I heard the chamber warden announce the ceremony of diminishment, at 4 minutes past the opening bell, in a voice so practiced and ceremonial, it had clearly been used for this exact purpose many times before. I was in the observers' gallery, 3rd row, left side, which put me above and behind the human delegation, and gave me a clean line of sight to both the floor and the upper tiers, where the Vethrani council sat in their formal configurations. 600 delegates in layered ceremonial robes, the color of old bruises, arranged in concentric rings that descended toward the floor like the inside of a very serious bowl. The chamber smelled of something they burned for ritual occasions, a resinous smoke that was supposed to convey weight and consequence. It conveyed, mostly, a mild headache. Ambassador Elsa Voss was seated at the floor-level table with her 2 aides, Petra Len and Corvin Marsh. She had her hands folded on the table in front of her. She was not moving. Neither were the aides. They looked like 3 people who had agreed in advance to be very comfortable. The chamber warden read the formal preamble. It took 11 minutes. I had brought a small notebook and I used it. The ceremony of diminishment was, as best I had been able to determine from the pre-session briefing materials, a Vethrani ritual approximately 400 years old, originally designed for subordinate colonial assemblies that had overstepped their administrative standing. The premise was straightforward. The offending party was made to sit at floor level, below the council tiers, below the delegates, below the ambient light fixtures, while a series of readings were performed above them. The readings cataloged the offending party's errors, inadequacies, and failures of understanding. The catalog was not brief. The catalog was, in fact, the point. The Vethrani called the cumulative effect of the readings the settling. A subordinate body, properly settled, would leave the chamber understanding its place. They had not, in 400 years, applied the ceremony of diminishment to a non-subordinate party. We were not a subordinate party. This had been raised by the Earth Mission's Administrative Office in 3 separate procedural filings over the past 6 weeks. The filings had been acknowledged, logged, and set aside. The first reader took the floor. He was a senior delegate named Sorath Ven, and he read from a prepared document in a register specifically calibrated, I was told later by a Vethrani contact who found the whole affair embarrassing, to land at the frequency most associated with formal shame induction in Vethrani psychology. The frequency meant nothing to human auditory processing. It sounded, Ambassador Voss would say afterward, like a very confident man reading a shopping list. Sorath Ven read for 22 minutes. He catalogued what he called the Earth Mission's failure to comprehend Vethrani deliberative precedent, its repeated procedural irregularities, its pattern of unilateral communication outside sanctioned channels, and its general conduct unbecoming a body that wished to be taken seriously. Each item was given its own pause. Each pause was, presumably, intended to allow the shame to settle. I watched Elsa Voss during the pauses. She was watching Sorath Ven with the expression of someone who has found an unexpected exhibit at a museum, not bored, not offended, genuinely curious about the thing in front of her. At the 3rd pause, she tilted her head approximately 2 degrees to the left. At the 7th pause, Corvin Marsh leaned slightly toward her and said something I could not hear from the gallery. She did not smile. She did not need to. Whatever Marsh had said, she agreed with it. The second reader took the floor. Her name was Dreveth Oral, and she was, I was told, the Assembly's foremost practitioner of the settling frequency. She had performed the ceremony of diminishment 14 times in her career. 13 of those times, the party being settled had, visibly, measurably, by physiological markers the Vethrani monitored, registered distress. She read for 19 minutes. Her catalog focused on what she called the Earth Mission's fundamental misunderstanding of the Deliberative Assembly's historical role, its failure to approach the session with appropriate deference, and its pattern of treating ceremonial process as negotiable rather than absolute. Petra Len, the junior aide, took a small sip of water at minute 14. She set the cup down without sound. She returned her hands to the table. Her expression did not change. Dreveth Oral finished her reading. She held the final pause for what I counted as 8 seconds, the longest pause I had timed all session. The chamber was built for this kind of silence. It was very good at it. The resinous smoke drifted. Elsa Voss looked at the table surface for a moment. Then she looked back up at the tiers. The 3rd reader was announced. There were, I had learned, 7 readers in total. Ambassador Voss let the third reader begin, and then she did something I have thought about since. She reached into the leather folder she had brought to the table and removed a single sheet of paper. She set it in front of her. She looked at it for approximately 4 seconds. Then she folded it once, lengthwise, and set it aside. It was her session notes. She had apparently finished with them. The third reader read for 17 minutes. The fourth read for 21. The fifth was mercifully brief, 14 minutes, and focused, with some energy, on what it called the Earth mission's characteristic refusal to acknowledge the ceremonial weight of Vethrani deliberative tradition. This was accurate. We were not, in point of fact, acknowledging it. At the midpoint of the sixth reader's performance, a delegate in the upper tiers, I could not identify which one, shifted in their seat in a way that carried, even from the gallery, a quality I can only describe as uncertain. The ceremony of diminishment is designed to produce a specific effect in the room. The assembled delegates feel the settling working, and this shared witnessing reinforces the social meaning of the ritual. What the delegates' shift communicated, and what several other small movements in the upper tiers began to communicate over the following minutes, was that the specific effect was not being produced. The room was watching 3 humans sit at a table and be read to, and the 3 humans were sitting at the table and being read to in the manner of people attending something they had not paid for and were getting adequate value from nonetheless. This was, I would come to understand, a kind of critical review the ceremony of diminishment had never received before. The seventh reader concluded at 2 hours and 38 minutes from the warden's opening bell. He held his final page up slightly as he finished, in what was apparently a traditional gesture marking the end of the settling. The chamber fell into the complete silence that was meant to be the ceremony's last gift. The silence in which the settled party understood, finally and fully, what they were. Ambassador Voss looked up at the tiers. 600 delegates looked down at her. She said, "Thank you. We'll have comments in writing by end of week." Then she gathered her folder, pushed back her chair, and stood. Petra Len and Corvin Marsh stood with her. They walked out through the floor-level doors at an ordinary pace. The chamber warden did not announce a formal close of session. The silence continued for some time. I stayed in the gallery until the resinous smoke had mostly cleared and the delegates had filed out in ones and twos, some of them pausing at the tier exits to exchange words I was too far away to hear. Whatever the words were, they did not carry the quality of a ritual successfully completed. They carried something quieter and stranger, the quality of people reviewing a performance they were not sure they had understood. The Vethrani Ceremonial Deliberative Assembly retired the Ceremony of Diminishment from its active procedural code 41 days later. The administrative notice cited a scheduled review of legacy instruments. No other explanation was given. Ambassador Voss's written comments arrived at the Assembly's administrative office on the third day, well within the stated window. They ran to 2 pages. I was not shown their contents. I was told, by the same Vethrani contact who had briefed me on the shame induction frequency, that the comments were very thorough and entirely constructive, and that this had been, in its own way, the worst part.